Nickelodeon. Home media. If you ask me, the two just kind of go together, and it makes sense why I'd think this way. The main way I became a fan of the shows that aired on the channel were through VHS and DVD releases. Not to say I didn't watch the actual channel from time to time, whether it be at the houses of friends or family, just never at my house, because my family dropped cable whenever I was pretty young. The point I'm trying to make here is that Nickelodeon and their home media are inseparable to me, as it's the main way I watched most of their shows, which is why I care about the state of their home media releases. And I gotta say, the current state is not great, which I'm sure you were able to guess by whatever I made the title and thumbnail. That's right, today we are going to be talking about how Nickelodeon, or more realistically Paramount, could be handling the home media releases of their shows a lot better. The main things I'm going to be talking about are the lack of releases, the quality of the releases that we do have, and the few times they've actually delivered. With all that groundwork laid out, let's dive into that first topic by asking one simple question. Just how many shows are currently available? Now, to do this, I'm not just going to rattle off every single show that doesn't have a release. Rather, I'm going to put it into some basic numbers here. To do this, I'm going to take Nickelodeon's entire Nicktoons catalog and just see what percentage of them actually have releases currently available. Now, I am going to be giving Nickelodeon some leeway here, as I'm not including any shows based on DreamWorks properties, shows currently licensed out to Netflix, or shows that are currently based on toys, as I imagine the three of those probably have licensing issues that prevent proper home media releases. What I am going to include, however, are the two older Ninja Turtle shows, as while yes, Nickelodeon didn't produce them, it does seem like they're currently in charge of their home media right now. So with those exclusions and inclusions cleared up, what is the current number of Nicktoons produced? And just how many of those have complete series sets? 18, or 30%. That's right, less than 1/3 of Nicktoons produced have home media releases, or at the very least have complete series sets. Now, mind you, this is just Nicktoons. If we included the Nickcoms, the percentage here would be astronomically small, because as it currently stands, there's pretty much no major or current release for any of the Nickelodeon sitcoms. If you really want to watch Drake and Josh, you may want to reconsider knowing that's the price you're going to pay for a show that has this name at the beginning of every episode. So just refocusing back to the Nicktoons here, we can see the current number available is not ideal. Things can get slightly better though. You see, my math here is just based on the Paramount and Shout Factor releases currently in circulation. The thing is though, there is one new distributor that has popped up in the last year, that being Viavision Entertainment, who is an Australian distributor. Now, usually I don't include releases from different territories together in something like this, as usually there's playback issues with region locking, or oftentimes they're just not made available for other territories outside the one they're made for. That said, these seem to be an exception, as if you live in the States and go on Amazon right now, you can actually pick up one of these sets for yourself. If you are worried about compatibility, these do seem to be Region 1, meaning they should play in any North American player. Emphasis on should, as many reviews here on Amazon claim that these discs have major playback issues. This of course leads me to my next point, that being the quality of the releases we do have. Now, I'm not just talking about the quality of the plastic used on the case, or the quality of the disc art, or certain playback issues. I'm also talking about the video quality, and the fact of the matter is that most of these, like 90% of these, are DVDs, meaning they are standard definition. And to a lot of people, standard definition is more than okay, you know? And to be fair, with a lot of these older cartoons, I kinda get it. All of these shows were designed with old-ass TVs in mind. Hell, it's how I watch a lot of these old shows. I watch them on my crappy old TV. And you know what? It actually usually masks the resolution problem of discs, because DVDs were made for these kind of TVs, you know? These TVs hide their blemishes. Only one problem, though. Sometimes, I don't want to use my old dumpy TV. Sometimes, I want to watch stuff on my new 4K TV. The problem with that, though, is that Rocko's Modern Life on DVD blown up on that thing only looks a couple steps above a Game Boy Advance cartridge. Yeah, newsflash, DVDs usually don't look great on not just newer TVs, but just bigger TVs in general. Yeah, sure, on like a small portable car DVD player, looks fine. Hell, even, from a distance on my laptop, it looks pretty okay. But on a modern or bigger display, DVDs just don't look great. Now, I'm going to try and be fair here and point out that a lot of these shows probably have limitations when it comes to putting them in HD. Hell, the only old Nicktoon to be available in HD just digitally is SpongeBob. Yeah, all the other 90s Nicktoons, if you want to buy them digitally, stream them, it's only available in standard definition. Now, I haven't been able to find a concrete reason as to why this is, but I have a few guesses. My first and main guess is that it's just a cost-cutting measure. A lot of people will still just buy and stream the shows in SD, so Paramount really has no real incentive to spend the money to properly remaster these shows. My other guess is that it may not be possible to do a proper remaster. Now, don't quote me on this, but apparently for Cartoon Network series, only one show has been able to be properly remastered, and that's Cow and Chicken of all things. And the only reason why it was is because it's the only one that has a surviving or currently known master copy. Yeah, apparently stuff like Dexter, Johnny Bravo, Powerpuff, the master copies are just gone. I don't know how true this is, but given that Cow and Chicken of all shows is the only one that has an HD copy available, I kind of believe it. Maybe it's the same case for Nickelodeon's 90s cartoons, I don't know. What I do know is that the cartoons made after the 90s, ones that were not done with cell animation, can't be remastered. Yeah, you heard that correctly. All of these shows made after the fact are simply stuck at the resolution they were produced at because most of it was done digitally. Stuff like Danny Phantom, early Fairly Odd Parents, My Life as a Teenage Robot, and especially stuff like Jimmy Neutron, it was just produced at standard definition. There was no HD version ever produced of these cartoons, meaning there's no HD version to release. The best example of this is Avatar: The Last Airbender, which does have a Blu-ray release, but get this, isn't actually in HD on that Blu-ray. Yeah, apparently it's just an upscale, and from what I read, apparently not even a very good one at that. So this is kind of how it's laid out. If at all possible, the 90s cell animated cartoons deserve proper HD releases. Even just digitally would be nice at this point, but of course I would prefer Blu-ray. If a remaster is not possible, then yeah, I understand why we get DVDs. It's realistically the best they're gonna look. As for the 2000s non-cell animated cartoons, yeah, DVDs 100% makes sense because it is going to be the best these shows are going to look. So yeah, as is, DVDs do make sense for a lot of these shows, and for what it's worth, a lot of them are pretty well priced. Yeah, sure, when they first come out, they usually sit at around 35 to 40 bucks, but from what I've seen, most of them drop down in price pretty quick and then often go on sale after that. The point is, when prices are this good, it's kind of hard to be too upset at any minor gripes or flaws. I mean, you can be, trust me, I would know. At least when it comes to releases of these older shows, I don't really have any issues with specific sets, other than the Viavision ones, given their playback issues, which I kind of think are unforgivable given the price point. Come on, 60 bucks for 28 episodes of Invader Zim, and apparently I can't even watch all 28 of those episodes, that's just wrong, man. Now, when we start talking about the few releases we have of newer shows, that's where some real issues pop up. Over the last decade and a half or so, dozens and dozens of Nicktoons have been produced in HD, and yet you want to know how many have proper HD physical releases? 2. Plus 1 episode of SpongeBob. Now, part of the underlying problem here is, again, just the lack of releases for most Nicktoons. Remember that 30% from earlier? Of that 30%, only 4 of those shows came out after 2004, and one of those shows is Planet Sheen. Yeah, only 4 HD-era Nicktoons have had physical releases, and only 2 of those 4 actually have HD releases. And it's this inconsistency that kind of drives me crazy. It just begs the question as to why a show like The Last Airbender gets a Blu-ray, a show that's not in proper HD, whereas something like TMNT 2012 is stuck on DVD. And on the note of TMNT, Tales of the TMNT recently got a Blu-ray. It's the most recent Nicktoon to get one. All the while, the previous TMNT incarnation, Rise, just doesn't have a proper release at all, bar some random DVDs. These inconsistencies just don't really make any sense unless we start looking at it from certain angles. You see, Avatar is a prestigious or more adult franchise, Now, not adult as in super mature or dark or anything like that, just that its install base is generally older now, and it makes sense, the people who originally grew up with it were kids, back in the day, then they're in their late teens, mid-20s by the time Korra came out, and now most of them are in their 30s. The point being here is that Paramount knows there is an install base that is older and more willing to spend money on more expensive and premium things, such as Blu-ray. So, at the very least, I understand why something like Avatar has Blu-rays and not Fanboy and Chum Chum. You know what I don't get, though? Why does only one Ninja Turtles cartoon have a Blu-ray? If anything, Ninja Turtles as a property is more lenient on an adult fan base than Avatar ever is and ever will be. And a good chunk of this adult fan base are the collector type. It's why there's several TMNT toy lines. Not to mention there's comics to collect, and of course, home media, which Ninja Turtles has had plenty of, a good chunk of which is on Blu-ray. Now, the last major Nicktoon I would argue has the install base to warrant Blu-rays is SpongeBob. As I'm sure many of you guys know, since Season 9, the show has been produced in HD, and yet not a single season from this era has been released on Blu-ray. This is of course where I have to bring up Paramount Plus and just streaming in general. As I'm sure many of you guys know, physical media sales have been down for years, and streaming is considered the main reason for that. So combine the existence of streaming services with the fact that DVDs still make up a majority of physical media sales, doesn't asking for Blu-rays seem a bit dumb? And, you know, maybe there's a point there, but I have a counterpoint. South Park. South Park has continued to get Blu-rays, with practically every single season and special up to this point being on the format. Now sure, you could say, well, South Park is an adult show, so it again has that install base that Paramount can expect to buy Blu-rays. However, I would argue that South Park is what I would call streaming fodder. You know, shows that have been long-running for years and have hundreds upon hundreds of episodes, so people often when they watch it are really just throwing on random episodes in the background while they clean or work. And you know what show I would argue falls into the same category? SpongeBob. Even if you want to make the argument that people only watch random episodes from the early seasons, well, you can make the same argument for a good chunk of South Park. A lot of people I hear from don't really like the most recent few seasons, and a lot of people tell you the earliest seasons aren't that great either, and yet they have Blu-ray releases. The way I see it, if you're gonna bother releasing SpongeBob's HD seasons at all, then you might as well release them in HD. And I know a lot of people will make the argument, well, they're for kids, you know, so they have to be cheap, and a lot of kids don't have Blu-ray players. Which, you know what I gotta say to that?
Bullshit!
Very rarely do I ever see kids use DVDs, and honestly, why would they? DVDs are inconvenient for both them and their parents. It's just more convenient for both of them, for the kids to just have an iPad with Disney Plus on it, or a smart TV that has YouTube on it so they can doom scroll YouTube shorts. Even with that argument aside, at the end of the day, I still get it. Again, physical media sales aren't exactly super promising right now, and I have to imagine a good chunk of people that still do buy physical media stick solely to DVDs. I mean, these numbers don't lie. And I mean, with that in mind, it makes sense why a manufacturer might be hesitant to put something out like SpongeBob Season 14 on Blu-ray. At this point, all we can really do is vote with our dollar with what's currently available and hoping that maybe more will come. At the very least, I hope a lot of these Nicktoons that are without a proper release get something here soon, especially with so many of them being removed from Paramount Plus. With a lot of this though, only time will tell. So with that said, this has been Doofus Dan complaining about cartoon DVDs, and until next time, see ya.
In search of life's eternal truths.
What do you want to do today?
Discover the power of the sponge.